What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to learn how to bring Google Maps into your project. So here we see a simulator with a simulated location of London. We not only are showing Google Maps here, but we're also going to be taking a look at how to tie Location Manager to the map in case you want to show the user's current location. So obviously, we're not showing my current location. We're simulating London here, which is why we've got a marker on London. But we're going to go through this from scratch to implement it of what you see here. We're also going to be going through the Google console together since there is a little bit of legwork involved in configuring some things on the Google Cloud platform. Everything is totally free, so don't sweat that. But that said, make sure you destroy the like button as usual for that YouTube engagement and algorithm. Of course, and subscribe if you're a returning viewer. Get excited. Let's talk about some Google Maps. All right, we're going to begin by opening up Xcode and creating a new project. We're going to stick with the app template here, and I'm going to go ahead and call this my Google Maps example. Make sure your language is Swift, your interface storyboard, and your lifecycle UI kit. Go ahead and continue. We'll save it on our desktop. And as soon as we create this project, the first thing we want to do is we want to bring in the dependency for Google Maps. And there's a few ways to do that, but we're going to do it via CocoaPods. So go ahead and just close out this Xcode window and let's open up Terminal. And if you're not familiar with CocoaPods, I've got a video on them already, but open up Terminal and CD into your project, which we put on our desktop here. If you don't have CocoaPods installed, you can install it with a gem install CocoaPods, or just go ahead and Google it. It's fairly simple. I've got a video on it as well. But once you have it installed, go ahead and run pod init to initialize CocoaPods. That's going to create CocoaPods in this project for you. And you can then after do open pod file. And in here, what we want to bring in is the Google Maps CocoaPod. So it's just called Google Maps. And the latest version that I just checked is 4.0.0. Make sure you lowercase that P that TextEdit loves to uppercase, otherwise it'll fail. Close TextEdit and run pod install. And it should be fairly quick. You'll see that there's a green line here that it's installing Google Maps of 4.0.0. And once it's done, sometimes it takes a second, there it goes. We can open up the project name .xc workspace. And the .xc workspace will get created for you once you run that pod install command. So next up, we're going to want to configure the Google Maps SDK on Google's console before we actually bring in the map here. So we're going to open up the view controller. I'm going to bump up the size a little bit. And let me also pick a simulator. I've got the 12 Pro Max booted up. So we're going to pick that and hit the run button. And we should see our empty app here. Hopefully, if Xcode decides to compile, there it goes. All right. There is our empty app running, looking good. Let's hit that pause button. And what you need to do now is open up a browser. And I already got one open here, and sign into your Google account and head on over to developers.google.com/maps/documentation/iOS SDK/overview. I have this linked down below in the description as well. So let's come into here and we're going to set everything up together except one thing, but there's a little bit of configuration involved that I think should do together. So when you come to overview, it'll tell you all about the SDK, yada, 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 etc. Nobody likes to read all this. We're lazy. We're going to go to before you begin to see what we actually need to do. So here we see there are 3 steps, and they're all really simple. So the first one is setting up a billing account. So you can rest assured that you're not going to be billed for any of this stuff. You can set up a free trial. You get, I believe, $300 of free Google credits. And you can also disable by default any billing. So you just need to have a credit card on file with Google when you create a project with the Maps SDK. So once you've gone ahead and done that, it's going to say step 2, create a project. So if you actually hit this link, you'll see that when you actually set up a billing account, it already creates a project for you. In this case, it's up here in this drop down. It's just called My First Project. So we're already good to go with that. You will be too once you do step 1. The third thing is enable the Maps SDK for iOS. So this is a place where some folks get lost. I know I did personally, so let's do this together. So when you open this up, you'll see all the services that Google offers. Here are the popular ones, but you can search for different ones. But what you want to search for is Maps iOS. And there is the Maps SDK for different platforms as well, like Android, obviously. So we want to make sure we pick iOS. And we're going to have this enable button here. Go ahead and hit enable. You'll see it spin for hopefully a second. Doesn't take too long usually, but that'll enable it here. If you skip this step, you're going to run into issues, but make sure you enable it. Once you enable it, your page will reload. And if we close this tab and actually go back to it, let's just double check that it was enabled. Search Maps iOS. And now if you click it here, you should see something else. Yeah, you should see Manage now, which is in a green checkbox like that. So that looks good. Looks like that's all we need to do here for step 3. If we continue down this page, there's nothing. So we're going to continue to the next section, which is getting an API key. This is also important. We basically need to, in our Xcode project, provide the API key for that Google Cloud project that was created. So let's hit that blue button and it'll jump here and it's going to complain. It's going to say to view this page, select a project. So we're going to pick a project from this list. So I'll pick that. All right. So where do we find our API key? Well, Google recently changed all this, so bear with me. Let's do this together. Generally, you open up this panel, API and services and credentials. And under here, you should have a button up here that says create credential. All right, we're going to stick with an API key. Let's see what it wants. Use this key in your application by passing it. All right, that makes sense. Here's the actual API key. Hit this copy button. Please use your own API key. I'm going to disable this one after this video goes up. Obviously, you want to be able to use your own key, but we're going to go ahead and hit close. And if we close out this tab and go back to the docs, here it basically tells us we need to import Google Maps in our project and we need to set up its API key. So let's go ahead and do that. So here in our view controller, we're going to import Google Maps. And the first thing we want to do in view to load is GMS services, provide API key just like that, and go ahead and paste that guy in that we copied from the console. All right, step 1 completed. The next thing we want to do is actually show the map, which is the fun part. So I believe that's all we need to do for the API key here. Let's see. It's telling you what restricting API keys is. This is irrelevant for this video, so we're going to be lazy and not read that. Getting started. All right. It's kind of funny that they called us getting started when this should be getting started when they called it overview, but I digress. So here they talk about basically the SDK. They talk about installing it. I'll call out that they mentioned Google Places, which is slightly different from Google Maps. So we're not going to worry about that. We already installed Google Maps. All right. Adding your API key. We did that already as well. Adding a map. All right. Good stuff. So we want to import Google Maps. And here it's basically telling us how to create it. So let's be lazy and just copy this. And then we're going to tweak the code. And we're going to also bring in a location manager to show our current location. So we don't need to worry about actually declaring this URL scheme piece down here. So let's just bring in whatever they gave us. Let's control I it to fix that indentation. And let me get rid of all these comments. We're smart enough to figure this out on our own, hopefully. Looks like there's no errors here. So let's read this code before we run it. So first we create a camera position with a latitude and a longitude and a zoom factor, which makes sense. Then we create the actual map view with a given frame. We don't need self there. And we provide in a camera as well. Then we go ahead and we add it as a sub view, just like that. Then we create a marker, which is like a Apple map annotation. We provide a longitude latitude here as a CL location coordinate 2D to the map. We give it a title for Sydney and a snippet of Australia. We assign the map view, and this should be good to render a map view. Obviously not our current location. We'll deal with that in just a moment. So go ahead and hit that run button. Let's open up that simulator. Let's see what we get. All right, there we are. There is presumably Sydney, Australia. It's pretty zoomed in, so it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, there's Google Maps in our app. So this is actually the exact method that apps like Uber and Lyft use when you open up those apps to look at, you know, rides that you're trying to hail and the different car position. You'll notice that in the bottom corner, it says Google. One other thing that I did not mention, which is actually extremely important, is let's see if it's on this page, but looks like it's not. Basically, you need to include in your app attribution for the Google Maps SDK. It's in one of these pages about attribution. Let's find which one it's in. Looks like I can't find it, which is not helpful at the moment. Let's read through the docs. If I can't find it, I'll stick it in the description towards the end of the video. Basically, we need to attribute that we're getting the data from Google Maps. There is, you know, like their license agreement and whatnot. It's in one of these documentation pages, but I believe you can actually get that info by saying GMS services, something like license. Here we go, open source license. This is what we want. And I'm just gonna print it out for now, but you need to include this into your app in some visual format so you don't obviously get sued because nobody wants that to happen. So go ahead and hit Command R to build and run. Let's see what that looks like down here. You'll see that you see the license in here. Looks like it's fairly long, but you can go ahead and include this in your app in a text view, kind of information page or something like that. So that all out of the way, let's work on showing the current location. So that's pretty simple. If you're familiar with core location, we need to import core location. We need to create a location manager, which is a CL location manager. We need to you know, request permission and set up the manager. So we're going to say manager. You want desired accuracy. We're going to go ahead and just say, let's see what's available to us. We're going to say, I believe best is an option in here. So we're going to stick with that and spell it correctly. Let's see what it says. That might not be an option. I might be mistaken. Well, firstly, we need to actually request permission. So we're going to say request when in use authorization. We're going to say manager.start updating location, which is going to start the location updates. And we're going to say the desired accuracy. Let's try that one more time. Accuracy, let's see, accuracy authorization. Here we go. Desired accuracy is a CL location desired accuracy. CL location desired accuracy. This one right here, CL location. Sometimes the autocomplete really likes to not work. Such is the case right now. Feel free to forward the video so you don't have to bear this. CL location accuracy, that's what it is. Sometimes my typing is super inaccurate too, to be fair. And it looks like this is an object, so I'm gonna click into it and see what's available to us. Looks like there is a speed, accuracy speed. Let's see, CL location direction. This is actually just a double. So I'm just gonna omit this for now since it seems like it's not an enum and it should just default to something. But we need to actually set this guy's delegate so we can receive event calls. And we also in the info plist need to bring in the privacy string. So we're gonna say privacy location when in use usage description, please allow access to see your location. And let's go ahead and spell location correctly here. And let's hop back into our view controller. And I'm aware I'm going through this kind of fast. I plan on reviewing it towards the end. Here we have an error because we don't conform to the delegate, which is CL location manager delegate. And this error should go away. And what we want to grab in here is the location manager updated locations. So location manager did update locations. Let's find that method. I believe it's this one right here. Did update heading. No, we don't want that one. We want this one. And we basically want to get the location out of this. So we're going to say guard let location is locations dot first, and do that. And now what we want to actually do is we already have a map that we're showing. What we could do is just create the whole map in here, because this is when we're going to get the location. So let me go ahead and grab all of this code except for the API line there and put it in here. And what we're going to do is from this location, we're going to get the longitude and latitude. So we're going to say the coordinate is location dot coordinates, just like that. And then from coordinate, we can go ahead and we can grab coordinate dot longitude, coordinate dot latitude, and then same thing you want to do down here, coordinate dot latitude and coordinate dot longitude. So I think we should be in business. Don't forget that we need to set up some debug location data. Otherwise, we're not going to have any location data. So I believe it's changed in Xcode 12. But let's go ahead and pause the app. We want to hit this drop-down menu and hit Edit Scheme. And in this first tab here, under Options, there should be a location option to provide a mock location, which looks like it is here for default location. We're going to go ahead and pick, let's go ahead and pick, I don't know, let's go with London, why not? We'll go ahead and stick with that. You can go ahead and close this, and let's hit this run button and cross our fingers that I didn't break anything. So let's see how we did. All right, so first we get the permission, so we're going to allow it. Looking good. So we see our map, and there we are. We're in London, United Kingdom. So let me actually change the zoom here to be something else so we can see what the difference looks like. So on the camera object here, we have our longitude and latitude, and we have 6 as a zoom. Let's make this 1. I can't remember if a lower number is more zoomed out or zoomed in. I believe it's more zoomed out. There we are. It is more zoomed out. Cool. So here's Africa, here's Europe, and there is presumably, the United Kingdom and London. And you can drag on the map. It's, full functional Google Map, which is really cool. I always forget how to zoom in on a simulator. I think it's like Option pinch or something, or Option swipe, but you can pinch to zoom. You can do all that good stuff like you would in Google Maps. And there you have it. That's how you bring Google Maps into your app. So 2 things we're going to do before we wrap up here. 1, we're going to do the code review really fast. And 2, a question that comes up fairly often is, why the heck would I want to bring in Google Maps, especially if there's some cost associated with it? If Apple Maps is free to use for me as an iOS dev via MapKit. And the simple answer is, it's a little subjective, but the simple answer is Google Maps data, presumably for some people, is better. They have years ahead of Apple, a head start to collect the data and rendering, and they have a lot of place data information in Google Maps and satellite imagery and like a whole slew of things. And Apple is just kind of playing catch up to a degree. And I think Apple has made a lot of strides in the preceding months and years, but a lot of people prefer Google Maps, and that's the honest, simple truth of why people bring this into their app. So that said, let's do a quick code review. So it's not a lot of code. So we actually first set up the console here and did some configuration. I'm going to link the link here down below in the description. Then in the info plist, don't forget to bring in your location when in use description. We set up CocoaPods and brought in the Google Maps framework, which we import here right below core location. And then we wrote about 15 lines of code. So let's go through this. The first thing we do is conform to the location manager delegate to get location manager updates. We create a location manager. We assign its delegate. We request permission, and we start updating for locations. We give the Google Services singleton here our API key, which should be unique to your project. We go ahead and printed out the license, which you should include in a label somewhere in your actual app user facing. We implemented a location manager delegate function to get the location once it updates. We get the coordinate out of that location. We create a camera, which is basically the view window of the map itself. We create a map, we add it as a subview, and then we're also adding a marker. So you can actually totally get rid of these lines and your map will still show up, but having that little marker pin, I like calling it marker. I know Apple calls it annotations. It's kind of nice. So you can actually, instead of actually even creating this, I just realized you can just pass in this coordinate directly because I believe they are the same type. So you can actually just do that and not make your code duplicated. We're giving it a title. Obviously, this should be London, and that should be UK in our example. And then we assign that marker to our map, which was created up above. So there you have it. That's how you bring things in. Don't forget, if you're testing this on a simulator, to edit your scheme and provide a debug location to test. By default, it's none, so your app just won't work. So if you want to see it with none, actually, if we go ahead and run this, I can't begin to tell you how many times I've pulled my hair out of forgetting to add that there. But right now, it looks like it's sticking with London. But sometimes if you select none and you run it, it just won't show anything. So don't forget to do that. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already. I super appreciate it. Leave a comment down below with any questions, feedback, video suggestions, the whole 9 yards. I love hearing from you guys. Subscribe while you're at it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.